Hi everyone, I am Navya and welcome to my channel. So today in this video we have Sakshi Gupta with us and she's here to share her placement story of being successfully placed in Tekion on the role of Associate Software Engineer. So hi Sakshi, how are you?
Hi, hi Navya, I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. So please introduce yourself to all the viewers.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Sakshi Gupta and I am a final year computer science student from VIT Vellore. And through the campus placement process, I got placed at Tekion, which is a US based company, as an associate software engineer. So to talk about my college life, I only spent 2 years in college thanks to COVID, and rest we shifted to online mode. So when I was in college, I did a bit of web development for just for fun, just for exploring the domain. Then I shifted to app development as well. So I did Flutter for some time. I was not a part of a club or a chapter as such, but still I tried to learn different things from my friends, like people who were around me, like different. I tried to explore different domains. I did web, I did app, then I also tried to explore machine learning. So that was about college, and then apart to talk about my hobbies or things that I like to do, I sometimes I like to solve sudokus a lot, and then sometimes I do read fictional books and novels. So I think that's it about me.
That's quite interesting. So we'll move to the main part of this video, that is you sharing about the interview process and the rounds that you had, the online rounds, and the as well as
Yeah.
the face-to-face interviews that you had. So please give a brief description about all those rounds.
Okay. My interview process with Tekion was a very smooth process indeed. So for the very first round for any company that you're applying to is going to be the coding round. So the coding round will necessarily be of 2 hours. Only if there are very few companies which actually have a 3 hour coding round process. It is a very elaborate round with MCQs and then coding and different components to it. So my first round, which is the online test round with Tekion, was of 2 hours, and we were just given two questions to solve. There were two questions. There were no MCQs or anything. But if you go for other companies, there might be a section for MCQs based on different subjects. Like there will be one section for OOPS, for DBMS, for OS. So for the first round, they'll give you questions from trees or linked lists. Sometimes they also go to dynamic programming, but for my personal experience, I found very less questions of dynamic programming. More were just the medium level questions that we find on Lead Code and Interview Bit on those websites. So after I cleared the first round, which was the online test round, I got a mail for the interview round. So there were all in all there were 3 interview rounds with Tekion, but different companies again their format varies. Some also have 4 to 5 rounds. So my first interview round with Tekion was a purely technical round. So first, the interviewer, the person who was taking my interview, he asked me simple questions from OOPS, from DBMS, and from OS. So he asked me these questions which you usually find on GFG archives and on other websites as well. So my first round was of those questions, and after that, I had to explain the concept of recursion. The interviewer actually told me asked me the question in the following way, that assume that I am a person who has no idea about coding. Now you explain me how recursion works. So how would you explain to someone who has no idea at all? I had to explain the entire process of how recursion works by writing out a sample code. We had a shared screen, and where I had written some sample codes to explain how recursion works. So that was about first one. It was nice. It went pretty well. Then after a few hours, I got a call for the second round. My second round was also a technical round, but it was a bit more complex than the first round. It did not have any questions from OOPS or DBMS, but second round was a pure coding round. So in this also, I was given a question based on tree traversal, but it was more of a, I don't remember the exact question now because it happened quite a few months back. But I was given a problem statement which was based on the tree data structure. And again, I had to share the laptop screen and I had to write the code. And just writing the code won't help you. You have to explain each and every step. Like if you're writing even if you're declaring a variable or you're using a for loop or anything, you have to explain to the other person that why are you doing this. And also one thing which I think is very important when you're writing a code is to keep in mind the complexity of the code. You have to try to optimize the code. You just cannot write a nested loop, a for loop inside a for loop inside a for loop and get done with it. You have to keep the complexity of the code in mind. So anyway, my second round was only 2 questions, 2 pure coding questions, went on about for an hour or so. And then then it was over. Moving on to the third round. I think my third round was a pretty chill round, let's say. It was the HR round. And there were no questions actually. The person who was taking my interview, the person was very laid back, very relaxed. So it was like we were having a conversation, like you would talk to your cousin or like you would talk to your friend whom you're meeting after a very long time. Like, how are you? How is your family? What have you been doing in this lockdown? So it was a very chill process there. The HR round was not very hectic. The HR round was at 8 o'clock at night, went on about 30 minutes or so. And it was a very informal conversation that we were having. And by the time I reached HR round, the HR also said a few things which gave me an idea that, okay, I think I might have been already selected for this company. And then I got my confirmation mail the next day morning. So that was my interview process with Tekion.
That was quite informative. So just a point to make, since you talked about recursion being asked, like just from the basic concept. So, normally, like even if I talk about myself, I used to find recursion at some point of time very confusing because and generally people find that confusing because you don't know how it is happening. So the takeaway is that recursion is a basic for if you talk about trees or if you talk about backtracking, even in DFS algorithms you need recursion. So guys, please do recursion properly. If there are very good videos out there on internet.
There are a lot of sources on YouTube. You'll find a lot of sources from anywhere. Honestly, you just need to tap into the right resource and learn it well, so that you're able to explain it to the other person.
Generally, so recursion is really confusing if you think about as a beginner. So it's important you clear it because in higher data structures you will be needing it as a resource. So that is really a good point you talked about. So my next question will be, as you talked about your interview process, so were there any CGPA constraints that you had on the eligibility criteria for the students, and what do you suggest that what should be an ideal CGPA for all the students who are applying for placements?
Okay, so if I talk about VIT, so my CGPA at the end of third year, like when I was appearing for placements, was 9.20. So what I personally think is, as long as your CGPA is above 9, you are good to go. Because usually most of the companies that they come, even if they have a very high criteria, I don't think it usually crosses 9. Most of the companies usually have a criteria of 8.5 or above. Some companies have a criteria of 9 and above. So it is, to be on the safer side, keep your CGPA above 9. I think that is good enough to go for your placement process. And even if it is not above 9, honestly, it's not a very scary thing. Like, okay, I do not have a 9 CGPA. How will I? A lot of companies come to VIT. A lot. I myself wrote tests for around like 40 companies before I got selected at Tekion in just about 1.5 months. So I think companies are coming even now because we have reached February. So that is not a problem. If you just do not get scared that what if I run out of companies, because that usually does not happen at VIT. Maintain a good CGPA. Try to keep it above 9, because I think keeping a CGPA above 9 is not very difficult at VIT. So try to keep it above 9. Even if it is above 8.5, you're good to go.
Okay. So also try to avoid backlogs because they are a great hindrance for your eligibility to even participate in the online test.
Yeah, if you have a backlog, then you will have to suffer the consequences.
Yeah. Okay, so any tips and suggestions that you have for all those students who are preparing currently for their placements to come so that they can perform better in the interviews?
Yeah, so I don't have any proper tips. I would just like to share whatever I learned from my personal experience. So I started preparing from the month of February, around January, February. I was like, okay, now I have to focus full-fledgedly on my placement process. Before that, I used to code, but I was not very regular with it. I used to code one day, then I'd leave it for 1 week, then I'd again go back to it, and I'll forget all the concepts. I had to grasp it again. So that on and off thing was going on for a long while. But I think if you start from February, I think if you start from now, you'll get a good start. What I would suggest is to how to, if you want to go about it, is you need to first cover all the data structure. Start from arrays, do simple things. Start from arrays, cover stacks, cover queues, move to linked lists, slowly move to the complicated ones like trees and the more complicated concepts like backtracking and then dynamic programming. But it is very important that you cover all the data structures first. There are so many resources, like you can go on to GFG, you can go on to lead code. Once you are done with lead code, you can also move to interview bit, which I think has a bit more difficult questions compared to lead code. So, but it is very important to be regular. I think consistency is one thing which is very, very important. No matter how you're studying, whatever your studying patterns are, you have to be regular with it. If you are planning to devote 5 hours a day, do it every day. Do not skip even one day. Then, apart from that, sometimes it might also feel boring that you have to sit for 5 hours, 6 hours, and you have to do the same thing again. Take a break. In interview processes, you also have to cover the aptitude section, the quants and everything. So take a break, cover those concepts as well. Take half an hour out from your day to cover your quants and English and all those parts, because a lot of companies in their MCQ section ask that as well. So you need to be good with that. But I think the most important thing is consistency and getting your concepts clear. Like if you read, like I was talking about recursion, or you take dynamic programming. Dynamic programming is a very hyped concept, which is difficult to grasp. But you need to understand it in a way so that you're able to explain it to the other person in the most simple words, because these are complicated concepts. So unless you do not have the clarity of that concept, you won't be able to explain it to the person who's taking your interview. So that will cause a hindrance. So I think consistency and clarity are the two things that will get you through this process.
Rightly said, because you might feel too lazy and you might try to delay things that अभी time है, थोड़ा सा कर लेंगे बाद में जब होगा time, 2 months maybe. So that won't help you, because there are people out there who are preparing, I don't know from how many months or how many years.
Exactly.
Yeah, and some people are very good at competitive coding, so they can take a great edge over you. So rightly said, Sakshi. So my next question would be on basically on the resume. So when you talk about resume plays an important part in any of the placement interviews, right? So there can be questions coming out from your resume. So according to you, what tips would you give to people to create a good resume that can help them to stand out from other competitors?
To create so resume is firstly, it's very important. It is important because even before you actually clear the interview rounds, the company sees your resume. They already have your resume. So even if they don't go do a detailed look of it, they will browse through it. They'll see whatever projects you have written about, whatever skill sets you have written about. So I think one thing when it comes to resume is whatever you're writing in it, be it your project, be it your skill set, or be it your some certifications that you have cleared, you have to know everything that you have written in your resume. Like you cannot mention a project and you cannot just mention a project and not know about it, because in your interview process you will be asked about it. I was also asked about my resume. I was asked about one or two projects in my second technical round which I had. So you have to be very clear about what you're writing in your resume. If you mentioned 5 projects, you should know what those 5 projects are, what are the tech stack, what is the outcome that you're showing, or if you're building a product or something. Secondly, so I think the components that I included in my resume were my personal projects that I did. I also wrote about one internship that I had done, and I had also written about a few certifications and a research paper that had got published. And apart from that, my skill set, whatever coding languages or like Tableau or like R or C++, Flutter, Dart, whatever you have learned. So just do not make a very lengthy resume. Keep it short and crisp, but know what content is in it. You should be able to explain every word that you have written in your resume. And apart from that, I think that is it for a good resume. You just, and coming to the project, like what happened with me was when I was preparing my resume, I had not done a lot of projects back in college. So I was very tense about how am I going to write my projects. I have just done 3 or 4. It is fine. The number of projects do not matter. Even the complexity does not matter. Even if you have done very simple projects, do not get worked up about it. Do at least 1, 2, 3 good projects and write them. So at least if you're being asked about it, you will be able to explain it. And I think that matters more than doing 10 projects and knowing nothing about it. So even with your skill set, if you're writing that you know Java, you should be able to explain it. If you're writing that you know Tableau or some other skills, so you should be able to explain it. That is what a good resume is, from my point of view.
Yeah, that's really a nice point. And try to put the best, try to put the best of the things that you have in yourself, in your resume. Like, don't highlight any weakness, because that can take a toll on you, maybe. So my next question will be on soft skills. So we must have heard, every one of us must have heard soft skills word, because in our college time, we may have been told by some of the teachers or some of the seniors that you will have to be good at soft skills because you will be requiring it in the time of interviews. But in some of the colleges, there are at least one subject that talks about soft skills. So based on your experience, what do you think that how much role does soft skill play if you talk about being presentable in your interview?
So for like what I believe, it's your soft skills boil down to one very simple thing, which is how you communicate when you're in a meeting or when you're appearing for your interview. How clearly you are able to put forward your thoughts. Because usually what happens is we think, like, suppose the interviewer is asked a question. So in your mind you have the answer. Okay, this. But you need to be able to express it in the same way you are thinking. There should be a clarity of thoughts and what you're saying. There should be a connection between. Usually what happens is when we start answering a question, we go around, we keep beating around the bush, and then we move to a different thing altogether, losing the objectivity. So whenever you're appearing for an interview, make sure that you listen to the question properly and then answer to the point. We do not have to go make no more stories and beat around the bush and talk about everything. Just be clear and crisp with your answers, so that the interviewer will also understand, okay, this person is very confident with her answer, even if you think that your answer is wrong. Like we might always not know the answer to the questions that are being asked to us. So even if you think that your answer might be wrong, you don't have to you don't have to keep shut, or like you need to speak up. You just put forward your point, whatever you think is correct. I think that is more important. And you also, and that thing, and apart from that, just be clear with what you're saying. So for that, because we do not usually get a lot of practice with, like, coding you can practice online, but for interview we do not get a lot of practice. So you can create a set of questions for your own self. Whenever you, like, before you go off to sleep, just go through the questions, sit in front of a mirror and answer those questions for your own self. Right or wrong does not matter, just do it for yourself. So with that, you will get the confidence to speak, even if you don't know the answer, or if you know the answer. You need to be confident in the way you're delivering it. So that is important, and be clear about it.
That's rightly said, because my advice will be just that don't ignore soft skills totally, because if
Yeah,
you
exactly.
talk about any interview, maybe technical or HR, it is actually how you present yourself. And if it comes to online interviews, it's more about how you are going to speak, because they can't see your whole body language. So your communication skills play a great role. So it was really a good answer, Sakshi. So coming to my last question, it would be, a general question that will help you in all the domains or of your life, or maybe in all the interviews that you're going to sit for. So how can a student be more productive in his or her college life, so that they can create something that is actually going to help them, maybe in their interviews or maybe in their future jobs, or that puts them actually different from other students who are maybe kind of not putting that much efforts in the right time.
What I believe is when we are in college, there we have a lot of opportunities. It's like an open window for us for everywhere. You can do web development, you can do app development, you can go into data science, you can do some machine learning projects, you can go into computer vision. There is no bondage that you have to do this. Once you get a job, and once you've been assigned to a particular role, suppose you're working on backend, so you know that you have to do backend only, then you won't have a lot of option to explore yourself. So I think college is the place where you can explore. So don't sit back, don't think like acha theek hai, we'll see kabhi kar lenge koi project. No, I think the better way is to try everything. Try web development, try app development, try machine learning, do one project. Whether the project gets completed or not, that is not important, but what is more important is to explore, to find where your calling is. And I think college is the best place where you can do that, because there are so many people around you, there you have so many seniors around you, people who are doing different things, completely different things. So you have a lot of guidance as well. You can approach anyone, approach some, if you see a senior working in some domain and you think that you might be interested in it, approach them. If you see your friend working in some domain, approach them, learn about things. So I think the more you keep an open mindset, the better it will be for you, because you need to, it's not important that if you start learning something you have to finish it. Leave it midway if you don't like it. It is not necessary that you have to be good at web development, app development, machine learning, data science, computer vision. No, it is not important. But what is important is to explore, because this opportunity you won't get once you leave college. College is, you call in, when you're in college you can make mistakes, you have the freedom to learn something, make mistakes, then leave it. You might not like it, but somewhere or the other you will find your calling. Okay, this is what I like. Okay, machine learning is what I like. I would like to build my career in this. So explore, learn from people, learn from opportunities, go to hackathons, do projects on your own, learn online. But again, saying this, it's not that you have to do this 24/7. You can take a break, chill karo, Netflix dekho, that is also fine. But do not ignore the opportunities that you have in college.
Yeah, a good point, that always take good things from people and learn from them. And
Yeah,
वो कुछ करने का कीड़ा हमेशा अंदर होना चाहिए, वरना
exactly.
फिर वही हो जाएगा कि
Otherwise you'll get
yeah,
redundant.
exactly. So there are other people out there who are actually doing a lot of stuff, and so to be competitive in this world, you need to do your part of the effort. So
Exactly.
yeah.
I would just like to add one point. Like you said, there are a lot of people in this world doing a lot of things. So you don't have to feel inferior again, because usually what happens, like what my personal experience was that there a few friends of mine were doing a lot of things. So sometimes I used to sit back and think, okay, I am not doing this. I am not doing this. So how will I end up at the end of 4 years? So it's okay. Do not get scared. Do what you like, but again, do not sit back completely. Okay, fine, college to ho jayega. We'll see at the end of 4 years what happens. No, don't do. Keep yourself open to opportunities. You necessarily do not have to do everything that everyone is doing. It's not possible, because different people have, different skill set, different capabilities, different strength to work for that long. So, but do not completely close yourself in a nutshell and do not do anything at all. Do something.
Explore what you are good at but yeah, so that will actually help you to do in that perform well in that domain. So with this, I would like to ask you that do you have some it would be the flag part of this video, that some final tips that you have for all the students there out preparing, that will actually make them be an eye opener for them if they have been doing something wrong.
I think I covered a lot, most of the things from my experience in this interview. Any final tips? I would just say that do not take a lot of stress, because usually what happens that as this interview process goes on and as your friends start getting placed, you might sometimes you will get that feeling that okay, this
Exactly.
person got
Yeah.
placed, okay, she also got placed, he also got placed. What am I doing? So do not take that feeling will come, but embrace it. Do not get very negative about it. At the same time, keep learning, keep revising your concepts, keep revising, be consistent is what I said. Be consistent with your practice, make notes, study every day, because these 4-5 months are important. Once you get an interview, once you clear it, once you get an offer, you will have a lot of free time to do anything you want. These 4-5 months are very crucial. Pay attention to it. Do not get very negative about it. You will get that feeling, but try to keep it away from you and be consistent is what I think will always help you.
Yes, right. And be ready for rejections also, because you'll see them very
Yeah.
frequently. I hope you don't see them, but everyone generally
But
has to go
I
through
think
some of
you
them.
will get rejections,
Yeah,
and I think rejections are also a very important part of this. So, everyone gets rejections. You won't get the first company that you interview for. You won't get an offer from it necessarily. You'll get it after 4-5 interview rounds only. So rejections are also important. Just don't get very sad about it, or do not get into a lot of do not get into the negative headspace.
so I hope that you guys like this video, and it is going to be a great information for you to look upon. So thank you, Sakshi, for being there in this video and sharing your tips and suggestions plus your interview experience. That is going to be really helpful to the community. So with this, I come to the end of this video. If you guys like the video, please subscribe and share and like. Thank you for watching.